Morning, everyone. This is Solaris BlueRaven. Today is September 12th, 2014, and I'm here to communicate and create a file on some heterodyning, EEG heterodyning, and some of the things that I covered, as well as others at the Mind Control Super Soldier Summit 3, the last one we just did, which was out in Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, for those of you who did not attend, I really feel sorry for you because a lot of people are just living from day to day, playing the game, watching television, letting themselves get wrapped up in the illusion. And for those of us who know what's going on, with the technology and the misuse of, it basically dovetails into every single thing you do in your life. Every single thing. Now, whether there's a mass mind control going on through signals, through television sets, cell phones, cell phone towers, that's all low microwave crap. It's really nothing major. But the other stuff that they do, which is more exotic, which certainly can screw you up forever, and also create pseudo-symptoms of possible schizophrenic behavior, bipolar, all these nice little cutesy terms that they love to use on people. Well, first of all, let me explain one thing. You're a multidimensional being. With that comes a multidimensional personality. That's a given. There are many facets to somebody's personality and design, and that all depends on your frequency, your state of mind and consciousness, and a lot of other things. So people having moods is not a bad thing. That's pretty normal. If people don't have moods and they're really flatline, I kind of worry. So multidimensional beings are fine. It's the extreme behavior that I think that people need to pay attention to. That's the bottom line on that one. But I will say that a lot of this technology that's being deployed across the globe and has been for some time imitates mental illness. And that is very, very concerning because I don't even believe in mental illness, to be honest with you. After where I've been with this type of technology, I'm well aware what they can create just about anything. Let me put it this way. They can create Alzheimer's. They can give you memory loss. A lot of these elderly people you think are just having a natural process as they get older and they're losing their memories. I'm not convinced of that at all. Because from my experience with the technology and the interface with psychotronics, they can deliberately stop you in the middle of a sentence. They can cause a stroke. They can cause a seizure. They can create all sorts of different types of anomalies where it would look like you're having some type of a neurological disorder, when in fact you actually have no disorder at all and you're being hit with a psychotronic lethal weapon. And let me reiterate that. This is a lethal weapon. This is not a non-lethal weapon. Although they'll say it's used for passive harassment and interrogation and programming and other things, I will say this is a lethal freaking weapon, okay? And when you're changing people's brain chemistry and you're changing their energetic grid, where you're trying to, and you're going out of your way to cause health issues, because the mind, the brain, is the supercomputer driver behind your heart and your organs and everything else that kind of interconnects in. So you really have to pay attention to some of the stuff that I'm mentioning today. I've said this before. I get on here and I'll create a few files here and there for you guys for your benefit. But the bottom line is it's up to you to do the work and research and understand what I'm talking about. Now, there's not one thing that I've talked about for the past 10 years that cannot be provable. Okay, every single thing I have said and done is provable, right down to the technology. And if you look real deep into the band and you look real deep into the background of Peart and Mossbach, you will understand that I've been telling the truth all along. And I think that what makes me so pissed off about that is that so many people still sit there and play the worshiping and the praise game. They don't want to believe it can be anybody in the high-profile illusion of music industry. This is why these crumb bombs have gotten away with so many crimes in Hollywood for how many decades, how many forced suicides, how many murders, how many suspicious deaths. All correlate to the same kind of technology. Now, you'll never hear about it because it's a moneymaker, it's in the black market, and it's militarized. So the only time you'll hear about it is when they want to kind of spoon feed it to you like they do with Google Glasses or something stupid like that, which of course is obsolete. Anybody who's looking at Google deploying what they're doing right now in any kind of quote-unquote advanced synthetic telepathy or whatever, it's all obsolete already. As soon as they try to reveal it and unveil it, it's all crap. And I will say one thing, you don't need a headset for synthetic telepathy. Natural telepaths are already wired. Where do you think they got the template for the artificial intelligence from? Do you think they just pulled it out of their butts? No, they got it from beings like myself. Excuse me, they got it from real telepaths, real psychics. Let me also conclude, I have a very extensive background in mysticism. I'm sure you've heard it before, but I'll tell you point blank, literally very, very powerful psychic, very, very powerful remote viewer, clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient being. So that's natural for me, and they knew this. And so for those of you out there who are naturally psychic, well, I put you on the radar. That's all there is to it. For their own intelligence programs, for their own remote viewing programs, and for some other things that they're doing, which are not really necessarily in the highest good. So anyways, so we are going to talk about the EEG heterodyning, which I think is really important. Now, if you went to or attended the Super Soldier Summit out there in Vegas, and you would have known Dr. Robert Duncan, and also Dr. John Hall. Now, Dr. John Hall's written about satellite terrorism in America. Apparently his girlfriend was victimized by the program, and so was he, to some degree. His program was nothing like what I went through. His sounded more like a gaslighting, yet it still screwed with the brainwaves. It still messed them up. And he's very clear on what they're doing with the technology insofar as how it's being manufactured and how they're using it to clone brainwave signals. Now, also Dr. Robert Duncan, and I'm only on my first cup of coffee this morning, so bear with me. Dr. Robert Duncan, who is actually, Project Soulcatcher Volume 2 and How to Tame Your Demon, I believe, is the next book he has out. He actually developed some of the psychotronic programs and some of the technology. Not all of it. He worked on a piece of it, but he worked on enough of it to have quite an influence insofar as what this technology is about. You can locate these people if you need to on Facebook and other areas and ask them questions, and they're happy to respond. I know they've been on the front lines of communicating the truth and the data, and they've taken a lot of heat for it also, especially from other doctors. Now, the problem I have with mainstream doctors is that they can go to school for the rest of their lives. They spend all this money on their educations, and they think they're doesn't stink. The bottom line is they don't know crap, okay? Holistic medicine has been around way before mankind's BS. And I'll tell you right now, try to heal yourself through consciousness. If you really need to go to a doctor, that's one thing. But the only good thing of what I can see with doctors is an emergency surgery or something like that, where you actually really need it. But other than that, they're worthless. And I'll tell you, this is so over their freaking heads. This is so over their heads. They call themselves elite. They call themselves, specialists. They call themselves this. They make these great incomes. And they're the stupidest bunch of freaks and imbeciles I've ever seen in my life. Not one of them can understand or explain the technology that I communicate. Not one of them even tries to. And you know why? Because they'd lose their freaking jobs and their meal ticket. That's why. So basically, they sacrifice, integrity for a big paycheck, a nice car, a Stepford wife, the illusion of whatever it is you think you're doing here on this ugly little planet sometimes. And I say it's ugly because mankind's turned it that way. So it used to be a nice planet. Don't call it one now. But anyways, that's what I'm seeing right now. So, once again, it's education, lack of education. Keep the people stupid. Keep them dumbed down. Keep them drugged. Keep them programmed. And you will always have the advantage. That's like a military strategic freaking maneuver 101. I mean, it's just so simple, yet people don't see it. So anyways, the Mind Control Summit 3 was a really good thing. We do these every year, and I applaud Lorian for taking the time to put these together because we get a lot of heat from it. A lot of people just, it's all mind control, everybody's brainwashed. You know what? It's all true. Mind control is a real deal. Psychotronic warfare is a real deal. You ask any real cleared, high-level clearance military personnel who wants to talk about it sometime. Of course, they will never. And they'll confirm it. But you'll never get those boys to do that, or those girls, because they're too busy trying to cover their own butts. So don't expect them to come forward. But do expect test pilots to come forward. Do expect people like myself to come forward and talk about what kind of crap they're pulling in the underground and how they've been getting away with it for a very long time. So anyways, we're dealing with neuroscience weapons systems, okay? You're dealing with that. And I will say there have been some really good guests on my show as of recent. Charles Osmond is one of them. He has a real good clue insofar as what's happening with the technology. He's a little bit more upbeat about it because he hasn't really experienced the dark side of it. But I'll tell you, he's a good resource as well. So you can also look for artificial intelligence information by accessing some of his materials. He's very, very knowledgeable. I have a lot of respect for him. But this stuff is the hardcore stuff I'm talking about. So let me just explain something here. We've got the EEG, which basically measures your brainwave activity. You've got heterodyning, which is a mixing of the signals. They mix what they call mixing of the minds, okay? What they do is they mix these signals and they encrypt them so that they're very hard to break. You've got the brain hardware, which is really you, okay? Your brain is the hardware. It's the driving force. It's just like a supercomputer. The brain is the hardware that runs the software of the mind, okay? That's the way I interpolate it. And the mind is the software, okay? Your mind is the software. What are you putting into your mind? Is it, how are you programming your mind regularly versus when someone's trying to insert a psychotronic feed, right? You've got digital, you've got analog. There are things that you can do that might offset some of this programming, but I don't really suggest it unless you really, really know what you're doing. The binaural beats is a perfect example of synchronizing the hemispheres. Now, coming from a healing background like I have, I've been able to do that way before they even mentioned this type of therapy for people who have been hit by programs. I can naturally resynchronize the hemispheres. I've been able to do that through my own frequency. And I don't need any exterior device to listen to or anything like that. I'm wired for all that stuff internally. That's without them. So, and also understand that light is a wave and it can be a particle. Light can act as many different things. It's also intelligent energy. So light is not just light per se, it's energy containing a form of consciousness. And that's very important that you pay attention to that. So you've got the EEG cloning. Now what is that? EEG cloning is basically turning a target into a human robot. Okay? So what they're doing is they're interconnecting the technology to a point where they're releasing a template from somebody else onto the target and creating an alter, a synthesized alter. So they use this for spying, for the handler to spy. They use it for interrogation systems. They use it for remote killing, assassinations, disabling targets, collecting data, acquiring data. It makes, according to the military, they like this whole process because it makes their system better, or they think it is anyway. But it's, let's put it this way, I'm a firm believer that they have perfected everything. It's all perfected right now. And so they don't really need to do any more work on it. It pretty much is what it is. At this point, they're able to do a lot of things. They're able to brain hack, mind hack, remote takedowns, remote assassin programs. They have people out there. In the old days, they used to do like the men who stared at goats. Those are the ones who just sit there with psychic influence. Well, voodoo men can do that, or anybody can do that, right? It's just about projection and consciousness. But there are repercussions. There are karmic repercussions for doing that kind of crap. What I would call a naughty witch. You start that stuff, and it's a downward spiral to nowhere because eventually somebody's going to knock you out. Okay. So, anyways, but that's the old school way of doing stuff. Now they have an easier way. It's a high-tech sorcerer thing. Now they can disable people and attack them with an illusion of a psychic attack or a possession of some kind electronically, when in fact it's all done by remote technological interface. It's really it's sad, to be honest. I don't even want to say it's fascinating. I find it to be very sad because I've seen, gosh, I can't tell you how many people I've noticed and I've assessed and I've looked at that I know are being hit with programs. And the parents would never understand it. They're so not educated. That's the biggest problem. You've got people who are unwilling to understand the technology, afraid to understand the technology, and therefore they suffer the consequences. Doctors are worthless in these situations, like I've said before, because they're either very stupid and ignorant and don't get it, or they're completely in on it, like a lot of the old Nazi doctors were. So there's something to be said about that. So let's see here. Okay, so there are plenty of supercomputers on the planet. I've talked about this also. You've got the artificial intelligence design, which is a real phenomenal design in the underground, of course, and it makes any Japanese fast supercomputer look like crap. Let's put it that way. The thing is, it's like playing poker. You've got America here, and America's holding out on a lot of things because we're not telling everybody what we have. A lot of other countries have some really advanced things, don't get me wrong. But I'm telling you right now, America hasn't begun to unleash the technology it has in the underground. And if it does, and when it does, that's going to be really scary for everybody, for you guys for sure. When I worked surveillance, I worked with a guy who worked at Area 51. He also worked on Air Force One. He had a very high clearance. And, he was retired, but he was bored, so he worked surveillance, and that was fine. He was a nice guy. But I'll tell you, I talked about this stuff one time in the control room. And another guy was hassling me and giving me such a hard time about how it was never possible. It doesn't exist. Oh, you're so great, blah, blah, blah. The bullshit stuff that they like to say. And I just kind of basically just communicated the truth and just gave it to him. And, excuse me, that guy leaves the room, and then the man who used to work at Area 51 comes over to me and goes, yeah, he looks at me and he smiles. He goes, you just need a little more finesse with your approach, that's all. But he said point blank, he said there were things that he saw there that would scare the hell out of people here in any country. It would terrify the hell out of them. And pretty much confirmed a lot of what I was talking about without having to expose himself or his own background or his clearance. And, I know I'm right. I know I'm correct. You'd be surprised insofar as how many people get pulled into these programs that are not, quote unquote, military. Or they're not, you're not, oh, well, how can you be pulled into this project if you're just a regular being? Well, I'm not a regular being. I'm a multidimensional being. First of all, I'm very psychic, very intuitive. I have a lot of different gifts on a lot of different levels on remote viewing and other things. So it's not unheard of that they would pull somebody in who's somebody off the street. As a matter of fact, sometimes it's easier because all of their personnel are programmed. So they need somebody from the outside to experience it. They need somebody intelligent to decipher it and decode it and look at it from a different perspective and a different lens. So it's not unheard of at all to look at these things. And like I said, I always believe in the positive use of technology. If it were me, I mean, I would have been using synthetic telepathy to interface with machines off-world somewhere. I would be doing my own thing in another planet, in another world. I mean, that's literally an ascended consciousness design of what the technology needs to be. But now everybody wants to play mind reader. Well, the thing is, everybody's psychic anyway. In the old days, I'm sure you remember, you'd feel something and then your friend would call. You'd get a signal psychically, naturally, without any interference of man. That's normal telepathy. That's normal psychic awareness. So all the stuff that they're trying to put a buffer in between doesn't mean a whole lot because you already have those abilities. You already have those components. What I am seeing is that there are a lot of programs that are running right now where they're trying to use man, his artificial intelligence design, his man-made computers as the God, as the new God. This is the new God. In order to get to consciousness, you're going to have to go through the man-made computer. It's really weird, but it's very, very true. Now, it used to be the churches. The churches don't work. People figured that out, that your higher self, oversoul, superconscious is your direct line in the universe. There's no separation. There's no rise or fall. There's none of this, oh, you have original sin and you can't ascend. BS. No, that's a program. Literally, you are a multidimensional being and you have access to everything once you raise your vibratory rate and spin. They figured this out too, so they want you to shut it down and switch it off. Well, that's not going to happen, and the only way they can get in there is through busyness. Okay, they keep you very busy. They keep you stimulated. They keep you overstimulated. This is for the regular people on the street. They keep you overstimulated working. They keep you stimulated with your families and your handlers and your programs. And what I call handlers are people, no, I'm not talking mind control. I'm talking a boss, somebody you work for, a husband, a spouse, a boyfriend, girlfriend. People that have influence on you are handlers. They can become handlers very easily without even knowing it. And that's very sad, but that very much happens. So all these little components, it's like you have to go through the computer to get to consciousness. And it's the same thing here on this linear world. Now you're seeing it. It's you have to go through the system to have rewards. You have to have a credit card. You have to go through here. You have to have this number. You have to have this. You have to have that. You can't live as a sovereign being, a free being. You know, the bottom line is we are multidimensional beings, and with that comes unlimited freedom. It's a given. It's a universal birthright, okay? It's a celestial heritage and birthright. You do not and will never be a slave or be owned by anyone or anything on any world or dimension. And if you are, you have no one to blame but yourself because you have allowed it in a contract form to take place and transpire. And you'll hear a lot of people talking about the contracts. Releasing vows and contracts are a really good thing. It's a really big thing to do. It's not easy to break away from these programs. It's not easy to walk away from the system. Nobody's going to do it, and you can see it, okay? The only people that are forced to break away from the program are the people that have been victimized by it. And I don't even like to use that term victimized. Well, let's put it this way. Put through the ringer with a lot of different types of covert technological warfare. And so they don't really have any, to me it's kind of like you lose incentive real quick when people destroy your life. You lose incentive to do better or try to have a nice job again and try to have everything you had before when people took it away from you with psychotronic warfare and perpetuate lies and try to destroy your life and burn it and basically black it out like you were never here. And that's what happens a lot. People don't necessarily give up. They just get burned out. I'm burned out. I am so burned out. You know, the more I know about everything, the more I'm just completely disgusted. And I can't just waltz back into the false matrix and say, oh, let's just be reabsorbed and have a great life. Let's everybody play again. Let's see how I do this time. No, 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 no. Not at all. It's done. You know, the bottom line is some things are not supposed to happen on this world. People misusing technology and pulling you into an assault program where they can redirect your course of life. That's not meant to be by any higher source, oversoul, superconscious, celestial design. That was a criminal act that should have never happened, and there are repercussions that were never ever dealt with. You know, the parties that be never ever were held accountable, and of course they will be at some point. It won't be on this planet, but let me tell you, like I've said before, there are no free shots, and if they think they've gotten away with it, they have not. That I know. I know the universe better than anybody, and I'll tell you point blank, no, they will not get away. So that's the good part of it. But what we're dealing with here is the Dr. God syndrome. We're dealing with man playing God and using machines to do it. These machines are created by man. They're not created by extraterrestrials. And I want to reiterate that again. I've talked about that a little bit on my other file. But literally, you have an off-world species, which is ascended machine technology, which I write about in my book, Either Remote to Black Operations in Areas Beyond 52, and Programmed by Deception. I've talked about these races. There are many species out there, many advanced species who want nothing to do with the people on this planet. They will not have a contract with their military. They do not want to come in here and play games. They don't care about your DNA. You need to understand that there are other races out there who are resonating at such a high frequency that everything is full light harmonic. And they have no desire, none whatsoever, to participate with the illusion because they know it's an illusion. They see it as an illusion. It's like when you depart from this world and you transfer out and you go to the next level, you're going to look back on the parallel that you'll be able to see. Loved ones, family, whoever. And you'll say, wow, it will look like a dream to you because it was. It was a holographic representation of an experience. People don't understand that, but that's exactly what it is. Light, images, sound. Sometimes when you depart, when you transfer out, there's none of that. I mean, but you get to have a spy bird version of what you were doing on the world. And with that comes wisdom also. And I can get into the esoteric side of transferring out, and I'll do that probably around Samhain and around October, because that's when, of course, the veils are very, very thin. Now, when I say the veils, what do you think the veils are? Veils are dimensions, dimensions of frequency. So you're dealing with a certain veil which is opening up to you and more accessible for you to access not only your celestial heritage or your ancestors, but other aspects of universal energies and law as well. There's a lot happening here. And I tell you, one thing that I did notice, and I was thinking about this last night, excuse me, I noticed how we're having so many hardcore earth changes right now, which is right in alignment with ascension. Yet at the same time, what do you think is happening to the earth as she expands? What do you think is happening as these noises and all these earth changes are happening across the board? Literally, dimensional portals are opening up and things are fracturing. I'm seeing a lot of fracturing happening right now in the lower astral, what I call the earth plane. So, and what that means is that as it fractures, it's dissolving permanently, and it spikes here and there across the board. It spikes across the globe, and yet at the same time, there's this. There are openings that are happening, and as this happens, like I said before, as above, so below. You better believe it. You better believe that. And above means a lot of things, and below means a lot of things too. It's not just one formula to many people. But that's something I did want to bring to your attention because there's so much happening simultaneously here. But the biggest problem I've seen from my own perspective and experience, which isn't even a perspective really, it's experience point blank. It's cut and dry, it's cause and effect. I went through this, 2004, up until 2004 I had a great life. After that, I had to be thwarted into this terrible program of which I never wanted anything to do with. I rolled up my sleeves and I decoded the technology better than any personnel in any freaking division could have ever done. Better than Mossbach, better than the band. And look at them. I don't even call them the band. The bottom line is that's their mask they wear over their I don't even call them souls because they don't have them. Mask over their design they use on Earth. That's the way they waltz around and get to play the game. But literally, when you go and you tear them down one by one under the microscope, you will understand that these people are involved in a very, very insidious warfare. And it's a very insidious psychotronic assault program. So insidious that it's taken people out physically. It's murdered people. And I can get into specifics about Selena Taylor, Jacqueline Taylor, other women that Pierre's been involved with, and Michael Mossbach, and everybody else, and all their little games that they play with this type of warfare when they want to go on tour and entertain themselves. And I'll tell you, no drumming in the world is going to change the fact that he's created some really bad karma for himself, and he ain't going to clear it. I don't care how much he prays with that little prayer cap that he calls a prayer cap on his head. That's no prayer cap. That's a mask and a lie. So let's get started with that, shall we? One of these days, perhaps we can talk more and more and more about that. But I'll tell you what, since people don't seem to give a damn unless it happens to them, I know the dirty secret. I know the truth, and so does he, and he knows I'm right. And it will haunt him for the rest of his day. And that stupid bimbo he's married to, by the way, the new photographer, whatever she is, I'm not real impressed by women who allow their men to harm other people sexually, psychotronically, or remotely through this technology and lie about it and laugh about it and think it's okay to do so. Any whore who does that is nothing but a piece of crap, okay? So, and that goes for anybody else who's involved. I look at these breeder females, and they are breeders. They sit there and they secure their relationships by spitting out a kid. And shame on the guy who allows that. And I've seen it too many times, I tell you. I'm a very celestial being. And I function on a very high level of consciousness. So for me, I don't even think like females. I mean, I don't think like men either. I think like an ascended being in consciousness. I'm wired big time I'm beyond this planet on so many different levels. Excuse me, but I think it's really important that people pay attention. Stop idolizing television and stop idolizing the illusion of the media, because it's going to tear you down. Why do you give your power to people who are on television? You see all these stupid, skanky, I can name so many different females out there. What I call can I say pussies on parade? Because that's what they are. That's all they are. They're a Vegas show act. They're Vegas acts, okay? Even the men are becoming Vegas acts, too. They're becoming so vain, it's not even funny. They all have to have plastic surgery. They all have to be this persona of an illusion. And the funny thing is, I'm sure that they're being controlled psychotronically, but not to the extent where they're hearing anything. Not to the extent where it's so subtle, it's so passive that they won't understand it and they won't be able to separate it from their personality. That's how good this technology is. That's how good the cloning is. Okay? I want you to understand that. One of these days I should probably go into the real hardcore aspects of cloning, and I might even put a workshop out on it. But I tell you, it's hard to get all this stuff rolling because I've got so much going on right now that it's hard for me to go in and do workshops unless somebody wants to sponsor them or things like that. I just don't have the manpower to do all these things. But I do have the information, and I'm happy to share it if people are really interested in understanding it. So, but that's part of it, when I look at this whole thing with the media. And the media, it's just, like I said before, don't even bother paying attention to it because it's nothing but crap. It's nothing but lies. It's nothing but deception. But this whole thing with this band, they never, ever, ever came clean. I just can't, I guess I can believe it, that they never would come clean. Today is Peart's birthday, by the way. I'm not wishing that son of a bitch a happy birthday. As a matter of fact, I hope he gets exactly what he deserves. And which means all the bad karma he's generated, all the lies, all the deception. He went forward a long time ago, and I even saw this article on the internet and said he was schizophrenic. He went on an interview and said he had schizophrenia. He's full of shit, okay? That guy's a liar. He's not schizophrenic. And what I'm talking about here with the neuroscience weapon system. EEG cloning, EEG heterodyning, will create a schizophrenic brainwave pattern, okay? This is the stuff it does. That's what it specializes in, screwing up people's brainwave patterns. Now, if you were to go get an EEG and you were being inducted into a program of psychotronic warfare, the first thing they're going to see is a brainwave pattern very similar to that, very similar to someone who's schizophrenic or bipolar. They're going to say, oh my God, well, this person has a mental disorder. Well, I hate to tell you, that person's been hit by a psychotronic program. And no, their brain is great, and their mind is clear, and they have a supercomputer design, but they've been hit by a technological assault weapon, which is going to kill them eventually. And it's going to kill them very slowly. It's a slow bleed. It's a slow death. It's a slow murder weapon. It deteriorates aspects to the body. Slow death, let me tell you. And once you get hit with these programs, you literally die. And if anybody's gone to any of my workshops or where I've communicated this with MK Ultra and the Mind Control Super Soldier Summits, I've told you before, when I was hit with this program, they told me I was dead. And literally, because they killed me with the communication system, that literally it took out part of me and replaced it with something else. And of course, I had another name my quote-unquote birth name, and I legally changed my name. So Solaris BlueRaven is my legal name. That's the name. Because my other name, that person died in 2004 thanks to that band. Thanks to them wanting to have fun on tour and having a good old time. That's another thing they told me when I was being in communication with Michael Live Feed Real Time is, he asked me to tell my stepdaughter I was going on tour. The things that they were saying, and this wasn't some mediator, by the way, playing a game like putting Rush on the spot and trying to make it to be Rush when it was somebody else. No, this was the band, them, Live Feed Real Time, pulling me out of my life and bringing me around the world with them, Live Feed Real Time on tour with them, with the communication system so that they could entertain themselves and run me through a battery of programs. And even, like I've said before, they told me point blank, oh, well, you're going to need to be re-educated. You might need to be re-educated. How dare they say that to me? I'll never forget the crap they said. And the bottom line is, if you expect anybody in these divisions or in these areas who have access to this technology to come clean and tell the truth, and you're wishing on a dream, because it's never going to happen. And even in their deathbed or on their deathbed, they might sit there and try to give away clues. But the bottom line is, when push comes to shove, these guys are dying with that on their breath. And they're never going to tell the truth. Not in a billion freaking years will they tell the truth. And I knew that. As soon as I testified in 2006, I was well aware that I was dealing with people that would never come clean. Not in a million years. But I will tell you one thing. Every single bit of the so-called mental disorder that people have across the board here on this planet, people that are doing these weird shootings, they're all being psychotronically hit. That one guy who was the shooter, I mentioned him before, he was warning people. He was telling people he was being hit with an electromagnetic assault weapon. And nobody would listen to him. You know, nobody listens. Oh, these people are mentally ill. The mainstream loves to say that. Excuse me, they're not mentally ill, damn it to hell. I've seen a lot of sane people that I know are being hit with tactical hardware, right down to military personnel. And that's another thing, too. If you're in with these guys and you work for them or you're part of their military and you're in a clearance or have a clearance, believe me, there's no way out. It's a roach motel. You could try and leave, but what they'll do is hit you with the program remotely, and you'll always be influenced, and you'll always be compromised. And when you try to remember something to communicate the truth, they'll put a block on you. They'll literally run interference. They can compromise witnesses in courtrooms. You can go to a courtroom and try to testify, and they will literally compromise you. And you know, the reason that I'm able to communicate this data is because every time they tried to shut me up through the communication system with a synthetic telepathy live feed real time, I would counter it big time. I would push them out and away big time to a point where I'm the one in control, not them. And they knew that. So that's the thing. You know, stay strong with the facts, excuse me, and stay strong with the truth, because everything else is a facade. And I guess the reason I'm pretty annoyed with a lot of things these days is because I've said before, I've got some things going on, which are provable, by the way, technologically provable, that is affecting my skull, that has scarred the tissues around my brain, and that has basically destroyed a lot of me. And it's like I don't even want to call it deterioration, because of the warfare, because of the psychotronics, because of the constant attack on my body. I have scars that can be measured. I have scarring in my brain tissue. I've got scarring around certain areas from the technology. I have things that look very anomalous, that are not normal. You know, it's a kind of a drag. That's all I can tell you. And has anybody paid restitution for damages? And you might think this is about money, but it's really about a lot of other things. What have they done for me to help my career? Nothing, right? Because I told the truth, so therefore they blacklist. Okay, so that's the bottom line. So just look at it this way: if you come clean with information against whatever parties or whatever organization, don't expect to ever have any money in your bank account, because it isn't going to happen. They'll find ways to destroy it. And they'll find ways to drive you destitute to a point where you're out there and you're in the middle of the street. You know, when you look at people, and in the old days, you know, you'd see people on the streets and they look homeless, and sometimes they're talking to themselves, or what it looks like they're talking to themselves. Well, you know, you might want to think twice about that, because a lot of those people are targeted individuals. A lot of those people have been hit with a psychotronic feed, and they're not talking to themselves. They're being hit with a program that's created the heterodyning, the EEG cloning. And you can have up to 1 to 4 handlers with some of this technology, by the way. So when they hit you with a program, there's a hive collective. And some of the templates they use and the brainwave signatures and signals they use will interface and overlay onto your own brainwaves. It's really strange, but you have to understand that we're naturally multidimensional, as I said before. And with that comes channeling, higher self, oversoul, superconscious. You know, you're able to do so much as a spiritual being. So this is just an overlay and a synthesized version of channeling in a weird way. It really is. So it's really a complex machine, but I'm the complex machine. You know, I'm a complex supercomputer that they hit, and I don't appreciate what they did to me. And I wanted to address that. But the main thing I wanted to address today is also just talking about the neuroscience weapon systems in general and bringing this to the public eye. Now, I saw something on Facebook yesterday which was really interesting, but you have a lot of people who are out there right now who are quote-unquote alternative media leaders in the field. They're respected by quote-unquote what they think they know, and by people promoting them who are high-profile mainstream or borderline. You've got big radio shows out there who will promote these guys and make them look really good, polish them up, put them out there, and make them look like they know what they're talking about, when in fact they're a bunch of hacks, okay? I'm not going to mention names, but I've seen it. I profiled it, and I'm like, holy cow, I can't believe this. You know, beings like myself, you know, we get out there, we put out the truth, and you know, the trolls show up, because some of them are paid, first of all. Rush fans will always harass. They're just idiots. I mean, I was never a Rush fan, just so you understand that. I was, when I contacted Peart in the 80s, I'm an evolved being. I'm a writer. I'm a musician. I happen to be a female. Maybe he's a pervert. I don't know. I suspect he is after where I've been with the communication system. But the bottom line is, that's me. I'm a multidimensional being who communicated and sent, you know, a nice little letter. I'm literally not a groupie or a fan, and I never was, ever. So I think that's really important, that if you're in the industry and you think that every woman out there is a fan or a groupie, you better wake your sorry ass up, because we're not. I'm very scientific. As a matter of fact, I'm a mystical scientist big time. I know more about science than the scientists. I know that naturally. I have a knowing. I have a radar that's freaking amazing. I know how to interpolate data. I don't need to see the material. I already know it. That's not a program from them. That's a program from the full light universe, from source. That's my gift. That's the gift that the universe gave to me. That's the information I acquired and assimilated into my being before I even showed up on this world. And they tried to hack that, by the way. It's just not okay. Now we've got, as I mentioned before, there's 1 to 4 handlers with some of those inductions. Michael J. Mossbach was the main handler. He was delegated the information, and he was delegated the technology, interface with me live feed real time, to handle me. There were others involved, and I said this before, the members of the band, every single freaking one of them were involved, live feed real time. And each one of them had an influence, by the way. And if you ever notice that they have pilot's licenses, by the way, all of them do. They're able to fly around and play a lot of little games here and there. Check out their backgrounds with the Royal Canadian Air Force. Check out their backgrounds with the military. Check out their backgrounds with signals intelligence if you can. And chances are you probably won't find a whole lot, because a lot of that data is shoved under the carpet, shall we say. But it's there. So, let's see here. So I mentioned the 1 to 4 handlers, 2 modes. You've got a human to target interface, okay? The human to target interface is mostly artificial intelligence, unless you have a live handler who's programming you and training you real time, which was what happened with me. Now, I had a live handler real time that opened up the channel to me. In 2004, there was a real person who opened up that communication system to me. It wasn't a machine. It was a man. Okay, and I know who the man was, and I've communicated the data. So the real people involved with live feed real time, opening up the communication system. Then, once they start running a program with you and getting you pulled into the communication system with the handler, who becomes more of a, well, he definitely becomes your controller. You've got the mock radio signals, which is based on artificial intelligence, also interfering and interfacing also with remote influence and all sorts of other things they do with pattern recognition, colors, codes, keywords. They map your vitals. When they're mapping your vitals, they're taking every bit of template of your physiology, everything, neural circuitry, everything, interfacing onto the artificial intelligence to create their own template. And once they create their own brain template, they're using this and they're designing it so that they can create their version of what they want you to be, and then upload it back and then transfer it back onto you through the feed. Now, sometimes these things will work on people. It didn't work on me. Not at all. As a matter of fact, because I was not very compliant, because I was not allowing them to control, manipulate me, or brainwash me, I was being hit hard, big time, to a point where they actually said that live feed real time. I have you in a hard area, he kept saying to me. Well, that wasn't between his pants, although I'm sure part of it was. But the bottom line is they use some keywords and words that they'll use to kind of cue you insofar as what they're up to and what they're doing. I have you buried in a hard area was another thing he used to say a lot too, implying of the underground. Now, I will say one thing. If you look at Neil Peart's old books, Ghost Writer, Masked Writer, hello, take a good look at those books, because those are the books that reference the technology. And his little games that he was playing on while he was riding around with his motorcycle, hooking up with whoever through the psychotronic communication system. Yeah, it's a real devious program. Apparently he used to get off on it quite a bit. So, and I feel sorry for his quote-unquote kid, by the way. He got rid of the last one through the program, and now there's another one. And I'm like, that kid's not even going to be anything close to having... She's not going to be a hybrid of extraterrestrial. She's a programmed unit. That's a monarch nightmare, and that's unfortunate. Really is. And he has nothing to blame but himself and that thing he's married to. You know, it's one thing if you're miserable and you want to make everybody else miserable. Well, you're going to have to pay a price for that, folks, because I had a happy life. You know, I was happily married in 2004. There was no way in hell I would ever have left my husband, my life. I had a better life than anybody who has billions of dollars in the industry. I mean, these people in the illusion of fame have nothing. They have no lives. They have no privacy. They're all bought and sold. They've sold their souls to the illusion of whatever for fame and fortune. I had a beautiful, beautiful life. I mean, I think he was really jealous of that, to be honest. When I look back, I think they were very, very jealous of me. And it's unfortunate because what a beautiful life I had. And I reference that. You'll hear me talk about my life in 2004 before I was hit. I loved my life. I mean, I had everything so perfect, in alignment with spirit and in alignment with universal law. And as a Wiccan, I mean, and I'm more than a Wiccan, I've told you that before, but literally, it doesn't occur to me to go out of my way to destroy people's lives. It doesn't go out, it doesn't occur to me to go and do bad things or send bad energy to people. I was always doing the opposite. I was always doing DNA activation, healing, teaching, enlightening, empowering, whether it's through spirituality or through my martial arts, even land surveying, making maps, making topographic maps, which I was really good at. They took my career away, What you don't realize is that it wasn't just about me getting pushed and harassed out of my home. They took everything that I had acquired and everything that I had learned and tried to erase that. And that's that's not okay, folks. Not okay at all. I'm trying to put this in perspective for you guys so that you understand. How would you like to have worked your ass off your entire life and have acquired all these wonderful gifts, and then have somebody come in with a psychotronic feed and weapon system to attack your brain, attack your neural circuitry, attack your spirit, and try to turn you into something that you're not, just because they either have a vendetta against you or they're trying to program you or recruit you for something? I'm sure you would understand and you'd get very ticked off. Now for me, I mean, it's a no-brainer to come forward and tell the truth. Unfortunately, most of the people in these divisions and these governments are part of the problem and not the solution. But I was so innocent. I grew up with rah-rah America. Oh, yeah, well, everybody in our military and everybody in our government is all good. You're all good people. Well, unfortunately, I learned the hard way. They're not. They're not. Okay? And that's very sad for me because I was like, well, who can you trust? Nobody. It's just like X-Files. Trust no one. It's really funny. I used to work for a big corporation when I was younger, and I remember people telling me to watch X-Files, and I'd be like, well, I don't know what that is. I never knew what anything was. I never watched anything. I was always reading or I was training. I was not into television. I was not into a lot of the things people are with mainstream and all that crap. And they'd always say, oh, you should watch X-Files. It's just like you. This was before I was inducted, by the way. And I'm like, so I finally did watch it. And I'm like, yeah, well, I can relate. I totally understand. So when you think about it, sometimes things are out there in the ethers and they're there cueing you to something that's bigger or something that's going on in an alternate reality, which is really the true reality. And I think that's very, very important that people pay attention to that. Now, there's a movie called Ghost in the Shell, which is now they did a remake with the anime and all that, but the original Ghost in the Shell, if you haven't seen it, it's animated. It was back in the 80s. Japanese animation. Check it out, because that is exactly what we're talking about, the technological interface. I mean, the Japanese had it down. They had it down. And of course, they're still working on it. They have all their little artificial intelligence, and it's all groovy for them. And, all I can tell you is that I don't care how sophisticated you get with your technology. If you don't have soul, if you don't have spirit, and if you can't contain consciousness, then there's nothing there. It's an empty vessel. And even if you allow for consciousness to come in, it's still going to be a feed of entities. It won't be consciousness. Consciousness does not dwell in that. It won't live in that suit. Not for long. And that's the one thing I realize as well. You can take brain templates of people's personalities, profiles, conscious thoughts, not consciousness, conscious thoughts, and maybe possible cellular memory as they're remembering if you're mapping it. If you're mapping their memories as they're thinking about it, yes, you can actually transfer those into another host. But they won't be your memories. It's like Blade Runner. They did a lot of that with me. Okay, I have things that I know are not me. I have things that don't belong to me, that belong to other people, that I've been filtering out and breaking down and moving out and literally dissolving, because they're not mine to own. They never were. And it does remind me a lot of Blade Runner. A lot. And that's why I can relate to Philip K. Dick. Because he's another one that people said was, oh, he had this schizophrenic disorder. Another one they said had a mental disorder. Excuse me? I believe that, yes, okay, maybe he overindulged in drugs and he had this and that and he had a few breakdowns. But I'll tell you what, he knew he was being tracked by government too. And with that comes psychotronic stalking and all sorts of other cutesy little things that they do that nobody will ever know about. It's one thing to be under surveillance. I come from a surveillance background. I got pulled into that back in, after I was inducted in 2004. That's the only job I could get, to be honest. So I wound up working surveillance and security work on Maui, and then eventually working over in Colorado. But I mean, it wasn't my thing. I didn't want to do it. I just needed the money. But and that's all because of Mossbach. That's all because of him. That's his background, not mine. I didn't want to do it. But I needed to be, it was that or be on the street, right? So, I think it's let's put it this way, it's not as easy to get hired for things when they start trying to blacklist you, okay? When they start trying to take your life away. It gets really, really difficult. And as you get older, I mean, 10 years of my life is gone. I was really cute about 10 years before this, and I look halfway decent now. But I mean, just to give you an idea, I look pretty weathered these days. I look pretty worn out, and that's because of the program. That's not normal. My aging is not normal at all. I know that. I don't do drugs. I don't drink. There are things that show up that really indicate there's some deterioration going on. I've said that before. That's all because of the psychotronics. It's a murder weapon, folks. I want you all to know this because I'm not going to be here forever. Maybe someday this time capsule will go out there and people will start putting it together and maybe something will be done. But many people who talk like I do about this technology, they don't make it. They don't have, first of all, they don't understand the technology to a point where they can even express it or explain it. I'm really smart, not because I'm vain or anything, just because I have a very high IQ and I'm very good at breaking things down analytically and spiritually, because I see things from a higher self over soul superconscious multidimensional perspective, so I'm able to interpolate the data. Not everything is linear. So I was able to break this stuff down better than anybody, to be honest. I mean, you give me a little bit of the data and I can run with the entire thing and figure it all out quickly. I'm really good at problem solving. And I'm not talking theoretical problems. I'm talking I just know. It's so easy for me. And I guess I'm grateful for that gift. But that's, I'm able to do a lot of things. And it's unfortunate. You know, if I had my dream job, I probably would have been, after all this, probably just working for some kind of a, I don't know, astronomy society or something. I just listen to radio signals all day. The right ones, by the way, star signals. I mean, I think to me that would be the ideal job. Just kind of hang out and listen to the music of the spheres. But, and I will say something to you, you know, this, I know I get on these things where I need to talk about a lot of different stuff because there's a lot on my mind. But you see a lot of these guys talking about, oh, the water has consciousness, the water has life. And that one guy who made a big financial killing by communicating all this stuff, how water responds to energy and consciousness. Well, hello, but excuse me, mystical beings like myself knew about this way before they ever started playing these games. You know, now science is trying to prove everything that the mystics have been doing for centuries, and I find that insulting. And I find even what's more insulting is that the mystics were persecuted for centuries, and now all of a sudden, because a stupid hack scientist is saying it on mainstream, it has credibility. Excuse me? No, it doesn't. All they're doing is reiterating the truth of what the mystics were talking about way back. And I find that very, very insulting to those of us who are mystical scientists, because we already know these things. And where is our respect? Where are the people respecting our work? You know, there's stuff that I've written about that has come to pass. As a matter of fact, when I was back in the, I guess it was in the 90s, early 90s, I started writing a book called Mind Mapping the Mental Network. Okay, now think about it. I started writing that book on consciousness and mind mapping, and that's exactly what they were doing back then. But I had no connection to these people. I just knew the technology, and that's before I was inducted. So I've always been able to access things. The thing is with me is that the door swings both ways. With remote viewing, the door swings both ways. I don't care what they say. If they say they can remote view and they're not being, nobody catches it, nobody sees them, and they're cloaked, they're full of crap. Because you're dealing with multidimensional consciousness, and at some form, in one linear reality or another, something's going to catch you there. It's like when you leave, a perfect example of this would be like if you're in the emergency room and you're having a near-death experience, you leave your body, and you can see everybody in the room, but you can also see yourself as a shell. Well, it's the same thing. You're literally able to navigate and see things from a different perspective, but nothing changes. You're getting a snapshot of information and data and people. So there's no such thing as shadowing someone. You wish, I mean, there are a lot of people out there who think they can shadow people and be like, well, I can't be detected. I can be the shadow stalker and no one will ever know I'm remote shadowing them. I'm thinking, I'll know, you son of a bitch. I'll know. And I guarantee old Granny knows too, who's pretty old, but maybe not be plugged into artificial intelligence, but she has a real good psychic radar. You know, in the old days, I don't know if you remember, but I'm sure you all do. I mean, we had ancestors who were very psychic. Oh my gosh. And the experiences they had, the psychic information, I mean, they acquired natural abilities, natural telepathy, natural clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient beings. I mean, nothing was interfering with their beautiful spiritual designs. But now man has an unstoppable array system, and he's misusing it. Now, I'm trying not to mention Rush too much, but I do think that it's important that people really understand it. Just because I don't talk about that band doesn't make them any less guilty. And most of the time I don't address it, but I feel like addressing it today since it's the creep's birthday in general. And I've had it with those people. I'm tired of liars, and I'm tired of criminals, and I'm tired of people who destroyed my life, to be honest with you. That's just not okay with me. It never will be. But these people, I mean, there's plenty of them out there, but what you're dealing with, and if you look at the 2112 album, you'll be able to see. Do you ever read the lyrics, people? Did you ever look at the lyrics? You know, our great computers. You know, they talk about so many things that are basically exactly what's happening today. It's a 1984 Orwellian design, but it's worse than that because we've got an unstoppable beast, which is called the misuse of technology. We've got satellites that are saturating the skies, which are creating an array system that's designed to create interruptions. It's running interference. It's not stabilizing your electromagnetic field. It's destabilizing it. And, you know, there's a thing with ascension where the frequencies bombard the earth and you naturally adapt in consciousness. The cells in the atoms respond to light consciousness frequency. That's normal. This stuff isn't light consciousness. It's a parasite. It's not design. Its design is not pure. It's not good. So I can't say that enough. And I don't have to tell you what's happening across the board to get you to understand that it's obviously having an impact on people's psyches. You see a lot of violence these days. You see a lot of people acting out. And a lot of that has to do with the transmissions. I can guarantee you that much. You know, I'm kind of calibrated for transmissions. I can handle anything. To me, it's a universal highway. Even the communication system with psychotronics. To me, it's boring. And actually, when I was first hit with the program, there was so much. It's like, dude, do you have anything else? Because literally, they were boring me. I mean, at first I was traumatized, and then afterwards I was just like, this is a bore. Go away. You know, literally, it's not good enough. They're not good enough. Their technology is not good enough. I can make it good, but I don't want to be part of that. You know, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. So let's see here. See if there's anything else I wanted to say. But basically, to cover a little bit of the heterodyning, other things that we talked about. Yeah. Also, you know, for all you people who want to like research Rush, take a look at the Test for Echo album. That's another one. Test for Echo, ping, ping, hello, hello. Can you understand that? Do I have to lay it out for you guys? I mean, seriously? So pay attention to that one too. And so many other lyrics. I mean, I can go down the checklist of lyrics that he's written. And, you know, at the time when I was looking at his lyrics, I didn't put it together because I was like, oh, this is a good song. Yeah, I like their music. And when I was younger, I thought their music was very good. And especially when I had interaction with him through through pen pal writing, I thought he was halfway decent. I mean, I didn't say yay or nay. Literally, it was just a communication. So it's interesting, though, but I always knew there was something wrong with him, to be honest. I knew there was something not right with him. Even with the energetic signature that he would send back, I knew there was something wrong. And I guess what I knew that was wrong was all this. This is what's wrong. His interaction with the communication system and the fact that he never had the courage to come forward and talk about it. And maybe it was because they were going to do this or that, but you know what? He's initially responsible for everyone's demise that's been killed around him, and I know that. And he doesn't want to take blame or take the credit for that. That's tough. But you know what? It's only by the miracle and the grace of the full light universe that I'm alive, because I could have gotten taken out several times over with this communication systems, and they knew that. And they were not protecting me. They were not. They were reckless. Very reckless. So it's my beyond faith, it's my knowing, it's my connection to source that kept me alive through all that and kept my head together. And there are consequences too, like I said before, because it destroys you physically. And I'm a very powerful psychic, and I'm a very fit martial artist. I mean, you know, these days I'm older, obviously, but I mean, let me tell you, they hit me in my prime, big time. You're talking state champ, women's advanced kickboxing division, martial arts instructor, very, very fit woman who runs a lot, you know, knows weapons, knows everything. They hit me in my prime on purpose, and that's just so wrong, so wrong. And I have a hard time living here, by the way. I was going to say, you know, I'm still in Colorado, and I'm not planning on staying here forever. I came back here because this was my benchmark of where I was most happy originally before my induction. But I'll tell you, it's not home. There are still people in divisions here in certain departments that don't belong here that I'm just like, I can't believe these guys aren't in prison also. Because a lot of these enforcement divisions knew about what happened to me and allowed it. I can't even go into the specifics about that. But there are guys who are working right now that should not have employment, that should be put in prison, that are in Colorado. It's disgusting. So that's just a taste of something that if you guys only knew, if you all only knew. Anyways, What else was I going to mention here? But the heterodyning is the biggest thing I wanted to talk about. Let's see. So, you know, the schizophrenic brainwave function that they do, it rewires the brain function. Okay, that's what they're doing. It's sickening to me. When I start looking at all this, it just makes me very ill to think about it. But what they're doing is they're trying to rewire the neural circuitry into a irregular program and pattern and brainwave pattern. And they do it through the transmission and the EEG cloning. You know, I remember them specifically back in 2004 overlaying someone else's heartbeat, live feed real time into mine. And I didn't like that at all. It was disgusting. Some of the things they did, I don't even go into specifics about. And this might blow you guys away to hear this today, because most of you hear me on my radio show. I'm very nice, I'm very poised, and very intelligent. But there are things that I've gone through that you would just be like, you guys would hang yourselves. You guys wouldn't be able to handle it. I can guarantee you there are people out there who wouldn't be able to last 2 hours with the type of stuff that I went through. And my little you know, this induction didn't go like some people get inducted with MyLabs and this and that, and they get this weird psychotronic thing, but then life is normal, and then they go get pulled back in, and then they get a little more. How would you like to be hit 24/7 with this crap for 10 years, plus or minus? How'd you like to get hit with this every single day of your life? Wouldn't be real nice, let me tell you. And Michael knows that. Michael J. Mossbach knows that. So, yeah. Alrighty, let's see. Alright, I'm going through my notes here. Let's see. You know, they have a thing called ultrasonic heterodyning, by the way, which also is people feeling pain while playing video games. Isn't that nice? That's all part of the weaponization of the technology, by the way. So people are getting conditioned and calibrated for pain. Now, where there's pain, there's pleasure. In other words, they can also program you for sexual monarch programming. So they do that a lot. They tried to with me. It didn't work very well. But they'll literally try to get you programmed to respond sexually to somebody that they want you to be with. Okay? They did that. They do that with the program. They do that through the transmission. And they hit your chakra systems that way. That's how they do it. They work your circuitry and your chakras. This is why they're very interested in people who have very powerful kundalini, because kundalini is a very powerful sexual energy. And once you activate all your chakras and you activate them from the lowest chakra to the highest chakra, you reach a state of bliss and enlightenment. And of course, if you've studied any type of mantras with you know, Hindu teachings or anything else, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Now, I come from a background of a lot of different. I told you before, I have a lot of different mystery school teachings behind me. It's not just the craft, and I understand energy and consciousness very, very well. So, and I've been through a lot of initiations. And I'm well aware of what they try to do with this stuff. So if you talk to people like the Montauk, for example, that's a perfect example. You talk about the Montauk Project and how they were wiring them up sexually with their sexual centers so that they can get them to get stimulated to a point where they would put them in an altered space of consciousness. And as they put them in this altered space of consciousness, they're able to control and manipulate them better. Well, of course, because people want this euphoric kind of high through their sexual pleasures. I mean, you can understand why they're doing it and why they're targeting that, and that also puts them in the altered space of consciousness where they can create these illusion of alternate realities. What I will tell you is that the stuff the guy saw at Montauk was not valid. It was psychotronic feed. It's just like a MyLab. They were showing them a version of reality, yet it wasn't any reality at all. It was something that was manifested, yes, in their own minds, and it was something that was manifested through the communication system at Montauk, but literally it wasn't happening in real-time reality. In other words, it's not happening in the universe. It happens in their version of reality. That's a different thing. And a lot of MyLabs will do that too. Now, and I've always told the MyLabs, and I kind of scold MyLabs because they'll say, oh, I went here and I was on this planet and I went on this mission. And I know damn well they did not go there. They were hit with a psychotronic program. It's basically creating a version of reality for them to experience like a virtual game in their mind, but they're not going anywhere. And that virtual mind is actually in a small little artificial intelligence pod type thing. It's not even in the bigger universal flow or consciousness picture. That's where it gets really dangerous, because once people start thinking that that's the universe, they're in deep trouble. I always knew that it was a bunch of crap. When they threw stuff at me, I knew that what I was getting, my psychic radar has a good benchmark. It's the universe. So I know the truth. And I could decipher and decode the truth versus the visuals they would throw at me, but never, ever, ever give power to those visuals, ever. And the one thing I was able to do was navigate those visuals away. And I could throw visuals back at them that weren't very nice. I have a very powerful mind. I would bounce them right back, boy. So, but that thing, No. It's like a little, it reminds me of, it's like a little game. It's like that movie, War Games, was it? Where that little computer just wants to play chess all day. I mean, it's just like that. It's just ridiculous. It's, like I said before, there are so many things here that they think are so advanced that are just not good enough for me. Not good enough for me. You know, where I come from in the full light universe, none of this stuff is relevant. It's crap. It's garbage. You know, ascended beings and consciousness, we don't use that stuff. We don't need it. Why do you need something like a machine to be telepathic? You're naturally telepathic. Why do you need to feel through a machine when you can naturally feel through consciousness? You know, ask yourself these questions, because why do you want something to teach you how to talk when you know how to talk? And yet, better yet, don't you know how to talk through your higher self, oversoul, superconscious, where inspiration comes, where poetry comes, where music comes, where all these beautiful things called creativity come, and even enlightenment like true science comes. I mean, all of my knowledge comes from the wellspring of the full light universe, not from man. I didn't learn a damn thing in school, and I'm sure you all didn't either. Are you kidding me? Regular schools? They don't teach anything but how to shut you down and switch you off. That's the program, folks. That's the program. I would never put my kid in a school these days. I would homeschool my kid. There's no way in hell I would subject my kid to that kind of crap. So, and I hated school when I was a kid, by the way. You can ask my mom. Well, she's not on the planet anymore, but literally, at first day at kindergarten, I came home, she picked me up, and I looked at her, and I said, I'm quitting. This is so funny. I laugh because when I think about that, she laughed. She thought it was really hysterical. But when you think about it, I must have had a real interesting impact with that, because I knew as an ascended being, even in the little body of a little kid, I knew that, man, this is a bunch of lies and a bunch of crap, and I'm not going back. And that was just like, what a benchmark. I have to smile just thinking about that, because it's so darn true. But anyways. Well, there's a lot more I can talk about with, and I'm trying not to make this a huge lengthy thing. I think I've already done an hour of this, and it might bore you guys, but you can always, you can just go through it real quick. You can scrub through the MP3 file or whatever. Doesn't really matter, you know. I'm putting it out here as a benchmark of information because I feel like it, so that's why it's here. Anyways, what else did I want to mention real quick? But anyways, they do a lot of what we call brain entrainment. I'm sure you're familiar with that. And that teaches people's brains to sync up. In the old days, they used to call it RHIC, you know, things like that. But there's another thing they also do, which is called time slicing. And that's when you have two software programs running on one computer. And you can run, this is really scary in a weird way, but you can run multiple personalities on one person's mind. Okay, this is what creates the multiple personality disorder. When they break them down with a psychotronic warfare, they'll literally create a feed of time slicing. And that will create multiple personality and overlay them onto the person, the target. And with that comes all these different realities and the illusion of, and people's personality changes. And it's really ugly, guys. It's so disgusting when I look at all this crap. What they're doing is they're trying to hijack the higher functions of the mind and the electromagnetic field. Okay? So, you know, some days, in the old days with MK Ultra, they used to use drugs and put you away from people that were influential, like your family or your loved ones, and just use lights and all sorts of different types of primordial types of devices to brainwash you. A lot of it's trauma. If they can traumatize you, they can break you down, and to a point where they can program you. And I think the shock factor is really huge. I think that so many people in America are so calibrated for shock. I mean, beyond shock, actually. Maybe that's a good thing, but because of our violent television, it doesn't even faze them to watch stuff. I mean, literally, it's like, what you have next. And I'm kind of like that, too, I must say. I don't get nothing shocks me and nothing traumatizes me. I think what traumatized me the most with this induction was that I have never experienced anything like this in my entire life. And I came from a very pure level of consciousness to a point where it was so abusive to my body that it was really, that's what put me in trauma. I saw my vitals going. And I saw things happening to my body that were just like not okay. But that was the biggest part of it. But shock factor, you know, violence doesn't shock me. Evil people don't shock me. They don't put me into trauma. I'm a martial artist. I can take a hit, believe me. I've taken many hits my entire life, physically, mentally, and spiritually before I was inducted. So I was well fortified for sort of thing. But some people can't. Some people can't handle it. They can't handle the frequency and the technology, you know. So it's totally a weaponization, though. And I feel sorry for, the last thing I want to see is a bunch of people on this planet. As much as I don't love everybody, I'm not going to say I do. I don't want to see everybody hurt by these things. You know, I don't think it's okay to go and destroy people like this. This is wrong. You know, It's not okay. It's not okay to redirect somebody's beautiful spiritual design so you can sit there and play God with them. It's just not okay. But you see the puppet masters in motion here on this world. But I do want you to know that you do have a firewall. And the firewall is your higher self, oversoul, superconscious, which is a filter to these programs. That's what saved my butt a lot of the time when I was hit with these programs, was the fact that my firewall was able to kick in and know what was going on as the remote, even if they wanted to be the remote. Because when all else fails and the crap hits the fan, when your body starts to break down, your soul, your higher self, oversoul, superconscious knows it's being threatened or violated. There's an oversoul celestial heritage that just kicks in and automatically helps you and guides you. Now, you can call this divine grace, the cosmic Christ. You can call it a lot of things, source, the highest form of infinite consciousness, your version of God. I mean, I'm talking not God with a little g. I'm talking the true celestial source energy, which does protect you and shield you. You know, in the past, I've only been hit one time by someone who was trying to screw with me psychically, and that was before my induction. And I'll tell you, I've had a lot of Egyptian ancient mystery school initiations. And the one thing I remember, I knew what she was doing, and I countered her. But I remember something showed up really quick to protect me. I mean, like, holy shit, excuse my French, literally showed up to protect me. And I knew exactly what transmission that was of the ancient Egyptians. And was there to say, it's okay, we're here. In other words, when they try something, there's always the celestial heritage and those beings that lovingly support you, that work with you on and off world, that will be there for you. And I think that's very important that people pay attention to that. You're not alone. When none of us are. And they can run interference and pretend you're alone. They can sit there and run interference with the dialogue and make it so that it's all about the dialogue and you're not connected to source because we're interrupting every thought you have. Well, BS. Of course you're connected to source. And I mean, that's the bottom line. But they tried to do that to me. You know, they would run interference a lot. And they still hit me. I mean, I still get hit with, because I have an anomaly signal, they can target that signal, but it can't control me. You know, they can attack me, but they can't control me. And they know it, and it pisses them off. But I think they figured that they've ruined my life to such an extent that they don't have to do anymore. It's pretty sad, actually, but it's true. So, let's see here. So I was talking about that. What else do I want to mention real quick here? Yeah, it's just there's so much information. It's just so much. But I will suggest that you try to contact or at least read the book Project Soul Catcher. That'll give you a fresh start insofar as understanding some of the technology. You might find it disturbing. Dr. John Hall, follow his work. He's good. He has some really good insight on the technological side of it as well. And like I've said before, I mean, I can sit here and talk about the experience itself, but that doesn't mean anything. The parties that did it, yeah, that means something because they were the perpetrators. The technology means something because that's the valid technology that I'm talking about. So I understand and explain the technology that I have had interface with, that I understand what it is. And I think that's very important. It doesn't matter, people don't hear voices. First of all, you got to take that out of the whole equation. They're hearing a communication system. Let's be frank about it. Let's be real about it. It's a technological feed. And once you start describing this information correctly, you're going to see a little more respect in the community because, first of all, they're going to go, oh, I hear voices. Basically, mainstream is such a stupid bunch of imbeciles that when people start saying anything like that, they're going to totally run with it the wrong way. So talk to them about technological issues and the technology behind it and see how far they get. The bottom line is they're so stupid they can't even comprehend the technology. And then I always get, well, why you? I mean, why isn't it somebody else? Well, think about it. And I'm not arrogant, okay? And I say this a lot, but I'm not. I'm very humble, but I'm also super intelligent. I'm very spiritual. I've been through, and I've done a lot of spiritual work on myself. I'm very advanced in consciousness. Why me? Why not me? Why wouldn't they use my supercomputer mind for their primordial crap? Think about it. Of course they would. It helped them upgrade. That's why, unfortunately. I guess Pierce's brain was fried. He needed a reboot, right? So, and people tell me all the time, oh, he sounds like a drumming machine. Yeah, I know. I know why he sounds like a machine. Because he's been interfaced with one. It's bottom line. If you ever corner the guy and he ever talks about it, I bet you he's had so much erasure right now, he doesn't even know who he is. He's not the same man. And he lost a lot of himself officially after Selena Taylor died in The Illusion of Death and Jacqueline Taylor, that whole scenario. After that event, let's just call it an event because that's really what it was, he totally was not the same person. That's when he changed. Wasn't for the better either. Obviously not, considering where I've been with the technology. So, And he can pretend all he wants, but you know what? You know a zebra by their colors. Let me tell you. So I don't care. You can paint all the different solids on them all you want, but in the end, you can see them for what they really are. So, alrighty here. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it. I might do another file on just more and more hardcore technology, but I wanted to talk about the heterodyning. People don't even know what that is. And it's huge because it's part of this whole equation of the technology and the way they use the feed and how they create the simulation of schizophrenic behavior and bipolar disorder. And also Alzheimer's. Look how many people are getting Alzheimer's and they're saying, oh, well, it's from this, it's from aluminum, it's from old age, it's from medication. Well, no medication is good for you. There's always a side effect. But I will tell you, just because I know, when I was trying to write my book back in 2008, I the remote, they would literally run interference so that every time I tried to type a sentence out, they would try to counter it and interrupt me as I was thinking. That wasn't fun. And I'll tell you, that's exactly what they do, but a softer approach to Alzheimer's and memory loss. So a lot of these people who are having memory loss right now, who are older, or people who have worked in government, military, who are forgetting, there's no such thing. They're not forgetting. They're being erased. And that's the fact. I know so much about this stuff. I could easily be part and head of these divisions, but who'd want to be, right? I'm a celestial being, and I'm here for a while, and I communicate the truth, and I think somewhere down the road this might help somebody. I don't know. I'm hoping it does anyway. And insofar as that stupid band goes, you can't expect me to be compassionate towards people who have literally gone out of their way to destroy my life and who never took responsibility for doing so, because that would destroy their lives. That would destroy everything they've created. Are you kidding? Do you really think they're going to come forward after their Hall of Fame status and everything else? Do you really think they're going to come forward and tell the truth? That would take a hell of a lot of balls and integrity, and they don't have it, believe me. Now, the only way that would ever come out is if somebody leaked information deliberately who was part of the inner circle. And I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen at all. So, anyways, I think that's about it. So, you guys can access, if you're really interested in this mind control information, Super Soldier Summit data, Lorianne Fenton has a file. I think she has it for pay-per-view. It's really inexpensive. I think it's like $20 to $30 if I'm not mistaken. You can literally watch our presentations. And I think it's really important because Robert Duncan talks about the heterodyning, and I believe the others do as well. And I think that you'd benefit from looking at this material. So try to look at that. I think it should be under Mind Control Super Soldier Summit 3 on the internet, and you can check it out. And then there should be something there to download. I hope she keeps doing it every year. I really do. We get a lot of heat for this. We take on a lot of crap from people because of it, which isn't really nice. But she's taken a lot of heat and ridicule and all that other stuff that comes with the ignorant masses. I always say that the masses are dangerous when they're uneducated, and I think that's very true. If it were me and I was in charge of this planet, which I would never want to be, I would make people as empowered and as educated and as spiritually evolved as I could. That would be my mission, is to make people empowered, because with enlightenment and with education at the highest level of consciousness comes no violence, no jealousy, no envy, no greed, no abuse, no misuse of technology, no struggling to survive, no struggling to compete, none of this territory crap, none of this I have to have everything and you can't have any. Literally, when you're that enlightened, the illusion of this world is just that. It's energy and consciousness. That's all it is. Now, how we manifest it is up to us. There's a lot out there. Everything we've created on this world, we do by our imaginations. Everything that you own in your house, take a good look around. Somebody thought about it. It was manufactured and it's created. It's all about manifestation. Money's a manifestation as well. And enrichment and enlightenment. I think I talked a little bit about the breakaway societies, which of course we touched on with Charles Osman. I'm well aware that these societies are well broken away. These guys are upgraded and they're moving on and they think they're immortals, but they're not. They've been lied to. Once you're programmed into the communication system and you realize that, oh, this is cool and this is invincible and I'm immortal, you're not immortals. You're programmed to believe you're immortals because you're interfaced with the artificial intelligence, but you're not. And I think that people need to understand that in these breakaway societies. It's too late and they won't listen. And when they have the advantage to the rest of the masses because they're going to be up on this really high pedestal of education and everybody else is going to be dumbed down, fluoride in the water, dumbed down, mainstream rot, mainstream television, crappy television, censored information, censored books. Where are you going to get your knowledge when your books are all censored? You know, the reason that my books are published and self-published, and people can scoff at self-publishing, but I don't, because it's not censored. Those books are mine. I didn't have some jackass, wannabe publisher saying, well, you can say this, but you can't say that. Or we'll have to take this part out. No thanks. I have the facts, and I'm not going to let you skew it. That's the bottom line. So I put the facts out there, and you can thank me for that maybe 20 centuries down the road. But yeah, I'll never let people sit there and try to censor me. And I guess that's the reason that I still come forward as best I can and talk about it, because I'll be damned, dudes. You're not going to censor anything I have to say when I know it's factual. So that's really important. But yeah, self-publishing is a really good way to go. And of course, people read books. I mean, you can read all the books you want, but if it's all fiction, if it's all crap, it's all none of it's relevant because none of it's real. You know, it might be for entertainment purposes, and that's okay. I mean, but I'm not for entertainment. I'm not here for entertainment or anybody else's entertainment. I think the only thing I put out, even for my children's book, I mean, that's not even entertainment, really. That's educational for kids. It's about spirits. And I had fun writing that book, by the way. If you haven't picked up my book, Mr. Sun and the Halloween Ball, you might want to check it out. It's really cute. That was my downtime between the drama of dealing with covert technology and writing about covert technology. So I wrote a cute little children's book in between the spaces. And I was very happy with that book because it brought back a lot of happy memories for me in the life that I had prior to being inducted into the program. And you can never go back. You can't go backwards. Got to keep going forwards. And what's going forward right now is just like a stasis, in my opinion. Nobody's moving forward. It's just, I don't know what to say to you guys. I've said this on the last file. We've got some weirdness in the ethers. That's crazy stuff. But I think that's about it. If you're ever interested in looking at little Michael J. Mossbach, his background's in cyber forensics. He used to work for PCOR. And PCOR was actually, they were contracted with military personnel, high-profile candidates, presidential candidates, things like that, law enforcement. He has a background in things that are very covert originally, and things just got more and more, shall we say, entangled. So he has a very extensive background. He knows, and he's experienced in this stuff, and he's also a very good liar. I watched him pull off a very good lie in front of the judge in 2006. He's wrong. I mean, he's wrong to do that. He's so wrong to do that. People are stupid. He's a dumbass. I can't believe he even did that. Like I said before, it was his idea to even go and talk to the magistrate. But, yeah. So don't forget these names, people, because I'm tired, and I probably, I'm just tired of them, period. And I hope someday down the road it affects them the way they ruined my life. I really do. I hope that they're held accountable. I will say something really quick. The way to break free from these programs is to know you're being programmed. A long time ago, I interviewed John Lear. It wasn't that long ago, but a while back. And I asked him about mind control. I said, well, how do you know, do you think you might be under mind control? You might have screen memories. And he's like, well, how would I know if I was being under mind control? How would I know? And I feel sorry for people who don't know they're being mind controlled. But he had a good point. Now, for me, I knew what I was dealing with immediately. I think that's because I'm a natural telepath. I'm naturally psychic, and I'm naturally scientifically and mystically inclined. So it was easy for me to detect the man-made mock communications system. And also the parties involved, because they announced themselves live feed real time, they definitely wanted me to know it was them. They weren't trying to masquerade, and they weren't trying to hide from me at all. They wanted me to know. They were gloating about it. They were very arrogant about telling me who they were, as a matter of fact. So that's all ego, big time on their end. So, but you can break free from these programs, by the way, and move to higher levels of consciousness. And the biggest thing is to work with a positive technological interface. Work with higher self over, so super conscious, but also use devices like Tesla coils and things to help broadcast. Radionics is really good, and I said this before. Radionics is probably one of the best things you can do to help broadcast subtle energies out of your field at your four-body system. So you want to take the radionics. I believe Joshua P. Warren has a radionics box. I have not used it, but I always recommend him because I really like him. So he would probably be a good resource for you guys if you're interested in something like that. And I don't think the box is very much. So I worked with the radionics back in the, it was the 90s. And like I said, there's phenomenal things you can do with it. It broadcasts out attacks, potential targeted attacks. So say if they were trying to hit me with that, like if I was under the radionics broadcast and they were trying to hit me with a psychotronic feed, it would probably be negated before it could get to me. That's how good the radionics is. It doesn't matter what state you're in, by the way. You could be in, I could be here on the mainland, somebody could be out on the Hawaiian Islands, and the broadcast would work. It's consciousness in motion, it's intent, it's power of the psychic mind. There's so many things involved with it. I had a woman who was doing radionics for me one time, and she was on Maui, and I was on the mainland, and she would just do that as a support, to help my four-body system, because, if I was going through extra stress or anything, I'd just, she'd run a broadcast for me. And it was really interesting because one day I couldn't feel it, and I was like, well, this is interesting. I don't feel the broadcast. And I called her, and I said, it's really weird. She goes, I don't feel, I told her, I said, I don't feel that like I'm being broadcasted. And she said, wow. She goes, you're really right. She goes, the computer was off. The machine she was working with wasn't switched on. And she goes, wow, you're really sensitive if you picked that up. And I knew it. And that's everybody. I mean, we all have that sensitivity, but I found it very interesting because I could tell immediately when that thing wasn't on. And I can tell when things are attacking me, just like you can. So the biggest thing is to be aware of that, to know what's happening to your field. And when you start feeling magnetic fields or warps, what I call warp signatures, get away from those. Shift it out to higher photon electric, because those warps are going to pull you into implantation. And we'll give you a cue on that. We also have etheric implants. I mean, you can have etheric implants which are acting as stabilizers. Sometimes they're good for you. They're not going to hurt you. Sometimes they're put in by your spiritual teams, your celestial teams. Will put in the stabilizers, the etheric implants, to help ground you into the full light harmonic energies that are descending in. In other words, they won't make you too disoriented as higher levels of frequency connect and descend into your being. But there are other things that happen where people can get the negative implantation. And of course, sometimes those take on more of a I don't want to say reptile or anything like that. It's not about that. It's more about just mechanisms that are designed to control and manipulate you and shut you off and switch you off. And those things definitely need to be removed. So etheric crystal removal, etheric implantation removal is a good thing. I do that. I haven't done it in a long time. I got away from doing that for a while, but I should probably get back into it for people. Now, I don't have etheric implants. They're not etheric. These are technological things. So I don't have, etheric implants would be the least of my concerns right now. I'd be like, oh, those are nothing, compared to where I've been with the technology. So, and I have anomaly signals, by the way. They're a little different. They're not what people think. Like, I think people want to see them as these weird-looking implants. And of course, if you look at the late Dr. Roger Lear's work, I mean, they did see a lot of interesting materials that were basically assessed at the lab, and were definitely not your average thing. So whether they were off-world engineered or a mix between the underground and the engineered from the off-world species, there's definitely something there, especially when you have a deep space signal on some of those implants. And there was also some of the implants had air traffic control transmission, which I found very interesting. Now, I'm not going to go into real specifics. I could talk a long time here. It's I don't know what time it is, in the illusion of time, but I remember literally when you get to a certain level of, when you're implanted with some of this stuff, with the technological devices, when you go to a different level, when you're flying an airplane, say, and you go to a different elevation, you're going to see, or acclimation to altitude, you will notice that sometimes they will break up. Some of these signals will disrupt because some of them are being used by ground control. Now, it doesn't happen all the time, but there are times when you can go to a certain frequency and start acclimating and actually breaking and separating and dissolving the connection, and that can happen. So I'm sure some pilots would probably be able to relate to that. I've had things like that happen to me before, back in, I think it was around 2010, if I'm not mistaken. And I had some serious pain associated with that too, by the way, around my ocular area and where they had done some serious implantation. So the higher I got, and I was flying, the more painful it became. But I knew that I actually thought I was going to die. But I survived, thank goodness. But, I know what they do. I know it's all technological. I wish it was for the best. What they did to me wasn't for the best, unfortunately. I made the best of it. But what they did to me wasn't. But they had no intention of doing anything good for me. This wasn't about doing something positive for me. This was about doing something very destructive to me. I'm very clear on that. Very, very clear on that. So I think that's about it for today. Let's see. So I've been putting a few of these files up. You'll notice that I keep poking my head in on my page. and throwing in a few files here and there and things that are on my mind, because there's a lot happening, and if you're bored and you want to check this out. But I would say please try to understand this is a real technology. Please try to understand that heterodyning is hardcore stuff. It's being dispersed and distributed. It's sold on so many different levels. You've got satellites that are international, by the way. I'm not talking the United States, because the more I look into this, the more I realize that there are foreign investors into this technology that are harming. And, think about it. Think about all the people that hate the American people. And think about all the people that would love to see you programmed into their version of reality, or deprogrammed, or erased. Don't you think they'd want access to this technology? Of course they would. Don't you think they'd want to program your kid at a young age with psychotronics so that you wouldn't have any control or influence? Of course they would. I mean, think about it. So it's a real unstoppable beast right now. But I don't want to say unstoppable, because I think it can be stopped. But it's going to take a lot of people to be aware of it in order for it to stop. That's the biggest thing. You have to understand what we're dealing with here. So, and I think that's about it. Let's see here. We did get a little bit of snow today, by the way. It's just a dusting, so I guess we're going to have an early winter, which is kind of nice in a weird way if you like snow. I like fall. My favorite time of year is usually autumn, when the leaves change. I love watching the aspens turn. I think it's so beautiful. And I love maple trees. And I love to watch. I used to have a beautiful autumn blaze maple tree in my front yard of my house before I was inducted, and I planted that damn tree, and I love that tree, and I'm sure it's big now. So once in a while I'll drive by my old house and I'll look at everything that I had, and it's very sad. And I try not to do that. Nobody wants to look back. But I love that place, and that was my home. It was my light station, I mean, I blessed the land there, and I picked out that lot. I picked out everything. So it's really weird when you look at it, and I can't imagine people chasing me out of my house just to have a nice, happy frickin' tour. But they did that, So, what's really sad is I used to send Peter birthday cards a lot when I was younger. On his birthday, I'd always remember people's birthdays. It wasn't just his; it was just everybody's. I had like a core connection to, or I would send postcards to, or whatever myself. I mean, literally, people I corresponded with, I'd always send birthday cards. I was one of those people that would always send a card in the mail to others. They would be like, "How do you always remember our birthday?" And I'm just the type of person that does that. I used to like to send cards to people for their birthdays, and I used to send him quite a bit, actually. And I don't know if he even remembers that, but there were times when I'd send him stuff that I felt like he needed for protection. And, I was very innocent and very sweet. And I think I deserved better than what they did. That was really uncalled for. And it's a crime. I don't know what else to say about it, but it pisses me off to know that people think that's okay to behave that way with someone. And to play the false judge and jury, too, by the way, which he loves to do so well. He loves to point fingers at everybody but himself. He likes to play that card a lot, and so do the other ones, by the way. And if Michael, who has been trained by Neil, Michael's becoming a little brat too, because Michael's younger than I am, and I was more like the advanced one, and Michael's the idiot trying to, fumble through the technology. And of course, I don't know, man. I just look at them and I think to myself, you guys have no idea the type of detrimental things that you do from day to day in the name of your belief systems, in the name of your ignorance, in the name of your arrogance, in the name of your drugs and alcohol, or whatever else you use to get yourselves off, deadbeat whores, whatever. I mean, it's really pathetic. And I lost a lot of respect for that band because I used to like their music. I mean, I was never really big on their music, but I liked their music. I used to listen to it, and I stopped listening to it, I think, back in the 90s. But what I did notice was the more advanced I became in spirituality, the less I wanted to hear any music like that. It was just like it felt heavy. It felt negative. It didn't have a good vibration to it, and I didn't want anything to do with it. I didn't like it. I didn't want anything to do with it, so I broke orbit with listening to their music. Now, a lot of hardcore rock and rollers will always love, that kind of music, but you can love music, and I think that's the sad part is it's like a I don't want to say a pedophile with a van with puppies in the back, but literally that's what they do. You sit there and you lure people in through something, and then you're there to harm them and not to help them, and I think that's wrong. But that's what happens. I mean, use something that's appealing and then twist it and turn it and contort it to a point where it becomes detrimental. So, but for somebody like him who literally wrote about so many things that I talk about and that I've experienced and that he put me through, I think it was obvious that he was struggling with good and evil. And I think it was obvious that he was struggling to such an extent that he had to lash out on other people with this technology. Now, it's a choice you make from every day. He made the decision to have Michael pull me into the program. He made that choice. This wasn't an intelligence agency that did it. It was Neil that did it. Getty and Alex, these people involved, they pulled me into the program. Nobody else. I have news for you. The government had no interest in me. The government had no interest in pulling me into these programs. No way. No way in hell would they have pulled me in independently. I was off the radar, big time. There was no way. I was doing my own thing. I had my nice little life. It reminds me of that, The Matrix, Mr. Anderson. I pay my taxes. I have a good life. I have a good career. I'm the ideal wife. I have stepchildren. I have, I'm a martial arts instructor. I do healing work and DNA activation. I do everything by the book. I'm the role model, a perfect citizen. Let's put it that way. That was me. Literally. I was the perfect citizen. And I still am. I'm still a good girl. Even though I'm fiery and I won't put up with people trying to control and manipulate me, I still am I fight the good fight. At least I try to. So, anyways, let's see. I think that's going to wrap it up for today. There's nothing else I wanted to mention. Yeah, there is, well, that's something I need to talk about at some point. Yeah. Well, magic in general, basically magic has been weaponized. And they started getting into this way back with, I think Crowley started getting more into the weaponization of magic. And that has a lot to do with mind control as well, but that's a more primordial version. But that's something also that we can talk about, and I can certainly mention next time I upload one of these. And of course, it's basically the weaponization of the paranormal, the weaponization of mysticism, the weaponization of spirituality, the weaponization of psychic ability and remote influence and things like that. So what they're doing is they're using their technology as a booster rocket to enhance your natural abilities for warfare. It's not for good. I haven't seen it for good. They might be using it for good on each other, but still, but it is a weaponization. I can understand that. That's a military thing. That's what they do. That's all they do, is weaponize. If they can't weaponize it, they don't want to play with it, right? Isn't that the way it works? So, anyways, well, with that being said, I think I'm going to sign off here, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful day. And I am going to put some files together for October, for Samhain. So stay tuned for that if you're around. And I guess that's it for now. And once again, if you want to access my website, Night Shadow Anomaly Detectives, you can do so. But I am not accepting members, and people keep signing up to be members of my site. You don't have to be a member to get on there. Just get in there and look around. I don't keep up with members. I don't want members. I've been flushing my members out. I'm not one to like followers and things like that. I'm really not. I put the information out there, but I don't need that. So, just go in and check it out. I also do sessions on people, and you can find that on my website as well, and there's fees and things like that. Obviously, I do charge for my time and the illusion of time. Unfortunately, I like to give everything away, but I just can't do that. Just can't do it, folks. Sorry. Yeah, that's just the way it works these days. So, anyways, I think that's about it. So, all right, you guys have a great day. And, yeah, I have a show coming up on Saturday, 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time, of course, Ravenstar's Witching Hour. I'm going to have Renee Colson on, and she does a lot of interconnective healing work with animals. And fascinating woman, and I think you'll enjoy the show, so try to tune in for that one. It should be a very positive show, which I think we're all in need of at this point in the continuum. So, alrighty. All right, thanks for listening. Bye.